Dear students, welcome to Lal Sir's classes. In this particular video, we are going to understand though and although. Now look at these sentences. He went out though it was raining. Though it was raining, he went out. Second set, if you see, I have to go to office though I am not well. Though I am not well, I have to go to office. Third set, you see, although it was raining, he went out. Or you can also say he went out although it was raining. Fourth set, although I was not well, I went to office. I went to office although it was not well. The first thing we need to understand here is, in the first set when we see he went out though it was not raining, when we are using though after the first sentence, that is the first clause, in this sentence if you see he went out though it was raining, the main clause is he went out and the conditional clause it was raining. In between we have though as a connector here. If this though is coming with it was raining conditional clause in the beginning, then we have a comma here. But in the first sentence we don't need a comma. So what do we get here? That if we are using though in the beginning as a conditional clause, then only we need a comma here. Otherwise, when we are using though as a connector here, we don't need a comma. You see the second set also, I have to go to office though I am not well. There is no comma in between. But then when you say though I am not well, I have to go to office. In this case, after the word well, you see there is a comma here because the first sentence ends here. Okay, and then this though is placed in the beginning. So we need a comma here. I have to go to office. The main clause, that is the main sentence here, is I have to go to office. And this particular sentence, I am not well. This is conditional, though I am not well. Okay. The third one also, when you are using although it was raining, he went out. So after this it was raining, we need a comma here. But the same thing if it is conveyed in this fashion, he went out although it was raining. So after the main sentence, if we are using although, it is not required to put a comma here. The fourth sentence, if you see, although I was not well, I went to office. The although is coming in the beginning, and if you see, before the main sentence begins, there is a comma here. You see, I was not well, and thereafter there is a comma put here. The same thing, if you are conveying in this fashion, I went to office although I was not well, again there is no comma required here. Now, after analyzing these sentences, we can conclude that both though and although mean in spite of something. In both the sentence, in all the four sets of sentences, we find this meaning. Okay, here whether it is though or although, both mean in spite of something. Or you can also say despite something. Now, therefore, we can call them subordinating conjunctions. So they are working as connectors here with subordinate clause, and therefore, so it is so because the clause they introduce is a subordinate clause which requires a main clause to deliver a complete sense. Now let's see the situations where we can use although. First of all, to express contrast. Wherever there is a contrast, then only we will be needing this kind of formation. Although he was informed, he did not come to the meeting. So we find there is a contrast in the meaning here. Though he was informed, although he was informed, he did not come to the meeting. So this one is very clear here, to express contrast. Next sentence also, if we see, although he worked hard, he failed. Now there is a contrast, very clear contrast appearing here. The next situation, whether in the beginning or in between a sentence, though will be always followed by a noun or pronoun. Although I was late, I was able to catch the bus. You see here, we had a lovely time, although it was quite cold. Now the third situation, with qualifiers and adjectives to increase the sense of contrast. When we have qualifiers and adjectives, just with the purpose of increasing the contrast we need. Yes, for example, you see here, although Rahul studied, he could not pass the exam. It would be better to say, if you say this sentence, although Rahul studied, he could not pass the exam, then it would be better to say, although Rahul studied hard. You add a qualifier here, studied hard or regularly, it will give a better sense. So although Rahul studied hard, or you say regularly, he could not pass the exam. So here we find that when we are adding the word hard after studied, it does give a better sense here. Now talking about these two sentences, look at the following sentences. Though it's difficult, I can do it. Second sentence says, I can do it though it is difficult. So on the basis of these two sentences, we can very well conclude that in both the above sentences, the word though is playing the role of connector. Okay. Now, we can also say that when though comes before the subordinate clause, or you can say conditional clause, we need a comma before we write the main clause, as it is the sentence number 1. In sentence number 2, we do not have, we have already discussed in the first slide about this, but still, because we are discussing the role of though as a connector, it is, yes, another opportunity to discuss the same. Now talking about, yes, however, in the second sentence, we don't need a comma between the subordinate clause and the main clause, because the main clause has changed its position. It is appearing in the beginning, and the subordinate clause is appearing later. It is here, is appearing later. Now look at the following sentences. The first one, the task may be difficult, I will do it though. Second sentence, he doesn't have the required resources, he will manage it though. Now, in both the sentences we find one particular type of pattern. On analyzing the above two sentences, we can very well say that we can conclude that in both the sentences, though is playing the role of adverb. So though is the face value, place value changes according to the role. Okay, as we discussed, okay, in the above sentences, here you see the cursor. Here we find that the word is playing the role of connector, but in these two sentences we find that the word is playing the role of an adverb. I hope it's clear to you. Next, talking about the caution that we need to take when we are using though and although. Sometimes people commit a mistake, with the word even in case of though and although. Even though, look at the following sentences. Although he is not well, he wants to drive himself. Second sentence, even though he is not well, he wants to drive himself. Now, however, we can't say although even. It means when we are using although, we should not use even word with that. Now here even also, it will mean also. So it doesn't take even word with this when you are using although. We can very well say even though he is not well, he wants to drive himself. But we cannot say even although he is not well. So we need to be careful. When you are using although, even is not required. So therefore we can conclude that when we use although, we do not need to write the word even. That's all in this video. I hope you understood the concept of though and although very well and their roles they play. Thank you. Bye bye. And of course, needless to say, if you like the video, please like it and subscribe it. Thank you. Bye bye.